message Chelsea with the word hair, and they will get you a copy of the recording and the transcription, the notes, so that you can capture all the information that we have to share with you today. So Julie is kind of our hair loss expert, actually. She's the one that we're bringing in that brought this topic to us and said, hey, like, I work with people in my practice on this. I see this a lot in women. I know, Julie, you've got a personal story related this to share. So thank you, Julie, for bringing this topic to us.
Go ahead. I'm sorry I'm having problems with my phone.
Uh-oh. Yeah. Got to get it to stand up. It's all good. That's Instagram Live. That's what we do here. Tanya's saying thinning hair and very dry. So we're going to talk about some of those reasons for you, Tanya. So as we're here talking about reversing hair loss, our goal is to hit on 3 major talking points today. We're going to start with causes and risk factors associated with thinning hair. We're going to go over why you need to determine your type of hair loss as soon as possible to help turn it around. And I know, Julie, you've got a quiz about this that maybe you can share. And then we're also going to be sharing tips to reverse hair loss from the inside out, because your hair loss is an expression on the outside, basically, of what's going on your inside, essentially. So let's kick it off. Juliet, we're going to start with you. So why don't you just really briefly, in like 30 seconds or less, share a little bit about yourself, what it is that you do, who you work with, and then let's talk about some of these causes and risk factors associated with thinning hair that you've personally experienced or that you've seen in your practice working with some of the clients that you've been able to help with on this topic.
Okay. Great. Well, my catalyst into this was a phone call. While I was working as a media research analyst at Warner Brothers in California, I got a call informing me my mother had stage 2 breast cancer and was going into emergency surgery. So within weeks, I moved back to my home state of Colorado, to be closer to her and support her through this ordeal. And as I searched for her cure and as to why she got so sick, I discovered the power of healthy food and lifestyle choices and quit my media career and went back to school studying holistic and functional nutrition. But at this point, I was putting blinders on my own health and realized and discovered really that I was a hot mess with major gut imbalances, autoimmunity, Epstein-Barr virus, and ultimately hair loss, which was the most devastating. So now that I'm a triple certified evidence-based nutritionist and with over 10 years experience, collaboration with functional and integrated practitioners, along with my training in functional medicine, I restore women's luxurious locks naturally by getting to the root cause of their health and hair loss so they look and feel their very best.
Awesome.
But actually, female pattern hair loss affects about 50% of women by the age 50, and it really can be challenging and frustrating because there's over 30 causes with actually nutrient deficiencies, hormonal imbalances, and inflammation, ranking as the top 3, but they actually all start in the gut, and it takes a healthy microbiome, a healthy gut, to have healthy hair, and new studies prove this. That's a big starting point.
So that would probably be like one of the number 1 causes and risk factors, right, associated with that thinning hair is like going into the gut and understanding what is going on, in the gut, because the gut is a big part of what helps us to absorb nutrients, for example, in order to like have hair, right? So, or like in order to grow hair. Like that is probably one of the things that my clients will comment on as we start to work on improving their health is that as they start working on healing their gut, they notice that their hair and their nails start growing faster and they start to become much stronger. And my hairstylist comments on this all the time. She's like, I cannot believe how much your hair grows like in between haircuts. Like you can just see the roots. Like there's so much it's going on because of all the, supplements and good food that I eat and all the work that I've done on healing my gut, right? So would you say then that gut health, like your intestinal, your digestive health is the number 1 cause and risk factor that you see associated with thinning hair?
Well, sure. I mean, with everything, 80% of our immune system's in our gut, and our hair is made mostly of protein. But there's some really new, exciting research out that the inflammatory immune attack on the hair follicle, which causes alopecia, alopecia, which is an autoimmune disease that attacks the hair follicle, has led researchers now to describe alopecia as hair follicles as leaky. You know, we talk about leaky gut all the time, and you can throw hair nutrients. You can throw a bunch of hair nutrients, and there are top hair nutrients, but if you're not absorbing them, even if you're eating a healthy diet, like you just said, Jen, if you're not absorbing your nutrients, then that's where you need to start. And I find all the time when I start working with somebody, I do labs, as you do, and you find out they're not absorbing the protein or the fat, or you just have to start all over.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for kicking us off and sharing some of those insights. I'd love to see what Chelsea and Luna maybe have to add to the discussion here. So, Luna, I'll jump to you first, and then Chelsea. You know, Luna, I know you work with a lot of like hormone stuff as well too with women, and I'm curious, like, have you seen, you know, women coming through your practice that are losing their hair or have thinning hair? And if you do, what do you see that associated with? Like, what are some of those causes or risk factors that you see a lot of times?
Yeah, so definitely hormones. And, you know, just this, I feel like one thing we all do, and we do it really well, is decrease inflammation in the body. So I think just by decreasing the overall inflammation in the body improves the hair so much. And yeah, so looking at hormones, especially the androgens, is important on the Dutch test. And also just considering thyroid health. And I know you have a direct experience with that, so you can speak to that. But yeah, I think the beauty of our work and our ability to just work with any client, with any situation, and really decrease the overall inflammation burden on the body greatly improves the ability for this natural hair growth. And I have to say that, you know, even though I've never personally experienced hair loss, I feel like it's like you were saying, it's one of those signs when it happens for a person, it's just like, okay, I gotta figure this out.
Yeah.
Finally something hit them where they're like, oh my God, something's seriously wrong. And I hate, you know, I was actually talking to a friend today, and I was like, answer the whisper before it becomes a roar.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like these symptoms are all warnings to us. And so, yeah, when a woman sees her hair falling out, it's like, it's time.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful on that level that the hair loss is there to speak to someone, that there's some underlying factors to really investigate.
Definitely.
Can I just add that the best results for reversing hair loss is to address it as soon as possible, as soon as you notice it's falling out, because prolonged hair loss, especially the type you're talking about, androgenetic alopecia, can destroy the hair follicles. So starting on like a personalized protocol will help prevent further hair loss and encourage some regrowth from the hair follicles that have been dormant but are still viable. And stopping the protocol may result in the hair loss returning unless you keep it like in check by maintaining your nutrient levels and addressing the root causes of your hair loss. That's the first thing you need to do, is figure out what type of hair loss you have.
Mm-hmm. So we'll get into that part in a second, because I think that's going to be really interesting, is figuring out what type of hair loss people have going on. Luna, I want to go back to something that you said and just explain for people that are listening to us or watching us that may not know some of these terms that we're using. So you mentioned like looking at the androgens, you know, on something like a Dutch test. So can you just expand on that a little bit more and explain to people who may not know what that means, like what it is that we're talking about there and how that relates to hair loss specifically?
Yeah, so androgens are things like DHEA and testosterone, and when you're looking at those, and especially the DHT, and when you're looking at those and they're high and they're specifically traveling down an enzymatic pathway called the 5-alpha reductase, that can actually just cause these symptoms to be really elevated, such as the hair loss, cystic acne, and male pattern balding.
Mm-hmm.
So just seeing that imbalance in that enzymatic pathway, you can actually do some really amazing things herbally to really rebalance that.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah.
Right. So those are different types of hormones, you guys, that we're talking about, like steroid hormones. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but like where somebody might relate to that is somebody who has PCOS, right? So somebody who has PCOS, their hormones tend to be going down that 5A reductase pathway that Luna was just mentioning, meaning that there's an imbalance in these androgenic type of hormones, and the way that presents itself is, women with PCOS usually are experiencing acne. They're experiencing like this male pattern type of baldness stuff that's going on. You might find yourself being really like short-tempered and irritable, like grumpy, like kind of masculine type of energy coming through your body. So we've got gut, we've got hormones as factors as well, and we'll talk, we're going to kind of talk about in our conversation today how all these things come together and link together as well too. Like I said, at the end, we're going to wrap it up for tips to reverse hair loss from the inside out. So the inside is like addressing the hormones, addressing gut health to then ultimately impact and improve your hair quality and strength and all that kind of good stuff. So, Chelsea, let's jump over to you. I actually don't know if you've experienced hair loss personally yourself, or, you work with women and people in all kinds of different levels and health issues. So I'm curious on, what you've seen in terms of hair loss personally or professionally, and what some of the causes and risk factors associated with that is for you.
So hair loss impacted me on a severe level, actually, and I'll kind of share my story because it hit me from all the different spectrums we've really talked about today. And in the beginning, it was more heavily related to digestive issues, and I dealt with hormone and digestive issues most of my life. But I had more of a fungal infection that was more systemic than anything else due to just poor gut health. And I would get I had fungal infection that would even get in my hair, like hairline, and things like that, which caused a lot of hair loss. And I had a lot of balding here on the sides. So I had to wear my hair like really, parted specific ways, just to cover up a lot of the balding. I've shared pictures before of some of those things. And after I healed my hormones and my digestive system, I ended up getting thyroid disease later into my 20s and ended up starting to lose my hair again. And it was more kind of all over. And recently, if you guys didn't know, that hair loss is actually a side effect of COVID. And if you look at pictures for me, maybe a year ago, you will see about twice the amount of hair on my head. Thank God I have a lot of hair, and I could spare some, but it's probably the worst hair loss I've ever experienced in my life. And I have pictures of just like literally now, I've never seen anything like it. I sent it to my hairdresser. She said, I've never seen anything like this in my career, but I'm seeing it in a lot of women. And it's stress related. So the hair actually goes through cycles, and it's 6-week growth cycles. So the sad thing about hair loss is if you're experiencing it due to stress or your immune system or weakened immune system, weakened gut, which 80% of your immune system is in your gut. So if you have that, those digestive issues, things like that going on, if you're experiencing hair loss for that reason, then you have to wait until that cycle is over, because once the follicle dies from that stressor or that stressful event on the body, then you have to let the hair cycle back through, and there's no stopping the loss. The follicle's dead. It may take a little bit longer for these sections to fall out versus these sections, but you just have to really work to treat the underlying causes we're talking a little bit about today, and really just nourish your scalp, put really good oils on it, castor oils, things like that to kind of help growth, stimulation, like manual stimulation, manual massage, brushing your hair, things like that to kind of help it to just start new growth. So I kind of went through all the different crazy hair loss issues, and one of my most recent was traumatic over like the past 6 months just due to me having COVID and had a really severe case. So it's just stress on the body that caused that.
That's so fascinating. Actually, my friend that reached out to me today that I was talking about earlier is a hairstylist. She had been experiencing some hair thinning, and then it accelerated after she had COVID as well too. So I was not sure, but you just brought that up, and now we know that is a part of the thing, and it all goes back to the stress and the inflammation that a virus or like that can ensue within the body, and the health. This is where it's like great that Chelsea, you've got a foundation of health to recover from something like that. And like Julie said, it's like getting on it like right away too, I'll share, my story's a little bit different. It was like, so, Luna, you alluded to the fact that I had thyroid stuff, and I actually didn't lose my hair when I had thyroid issues going on. So I did start like having a bunch of hair fall out, like I said, a couple years ago. And I went and got my scalp checked out because I didn't understand, my hormones actually looked pretty good. And I was like, I don't really understand what's happening. And it was determined that they can do these really cool scalp scans and assessments basically. And I definitely had inflamed hair follicles. You could see how it was inflamed. And so it was determined, and Julie, I'd love to hear it. We're going to talk a little bit more about this and the types of hair loss. But I had telogen effluvium, which was happening. And so telogen effluvium is something that can just happen for various reasons. It can happen when you change your diet drastically. It can happen when you're under a lot of stress. It can also happen as from the result of having a dirty scalp and the hair follicles getting clogged kind of, and then inflammation coming up. And so that was what was happening to me. Funny little story about, I try to live the healthiest, cleanest life possible. And I was going through a phase of, okay, let me switch out my shampoo and my conditioner for something that's non-toxic and gluten-free and all the things free. And I found this shampoo and conditioner that I really liked, but it was actually for babies. And of course, because it's for babies, it was free of all the things. And so, a couple months after using this shampoo and conditioner, this telogen effluvium thing started happening. I just started losing hair. And it took me forever though to figure out what was going on. I went down all these other holes of is it my gut? Is it my hormones? And when none of that really panned out, I then was talking to my hairdresser about it, and she was like, well, what kind of shampoo and conditioner are you using? And I started talking to her about it. She's like, oh my gosh. She's like, I've seen this happen to clients before. She's like, they try to go down this non-toxic route, and while we want to be doing that, at the same time that some of those things are not formulated to actually break down oil and dirt effectively. And specifically because I was using a baby formula shampoo and conditioner, that is formulated way different than it is for adults, right? And so essentially what happened is this accumulation of dirt and oil built up on my scalp, inflamed the roots, the hair follicles and everything. And, like most women, I bet you ladies, a lot of ladies, we only wash our hair maybe twice a week or something because it's such a chore. And it's not necessary to wash it every single day. So I'd also been doing that. And it took, but I had to, Chelsea, you were saying, the cycle, once I switched my shampoo and conditioner, I immediately felt a difference in my scalp. It wasn't oily, it wasn't itchy anymore, but it has taken quite a bit of time of, really doing some scalp self-care, the stimulation, the good washing. I use essential oils, I use lavender that's anti-inflammatory, tea tree oil that's antimicrobial, peppermint oil that is stimulates the circulation, the blood flow. So after doing that for a period of time, my hair is finally recovered and stopped falling out. But I would even say I still feel it's growing back in some kind of ways. I get the little flyaways right here, and my hairdresser's like, oh yeah, that's all new growth that's coming in still. So, Julie, I think this is a great point to transition over to you as the expert, and let's talk about the different types of hair loss and how you can determine that. And like I said, you guys, Julie's got a quiz on her website where you can actually go assess the different types of hair loss and figure out what might be going on with you. And just before we move on to that point, I just want to say that anybody that's joined us new, for those of you guys that are listening, we are recording and transcribing our discussion today. So if you want a copy of the recording or the notes, you can go message Julie here, Luna, or Chelsea with the word hair, and they will message you back later today through Instagram with a copy of the recording and the notes for you. So enlighten us, Julie. Tell us about all these different types of hair loss and why it's important to determine the type of hair loss that you might be experiencing as soon as possible so you can start to reverse it.
Well, that's the bottom line, to determine what it is, and they all fall in, again, like I said earlier, there's about 30 different causes, but they fall into about 4 root cause categories, which digestive, hormonal, stress, inflammation, and again, there's things that overlap. There's so many things that overlap. Even when you're talking about shampoo, they put wheat in a lot of shampoo, and someone like myself and maybe a lot of you have a sensitivity to gluten, actually the antibodies can react and attack the hair follicles and start the process of alopecia. Even fungal imbalances like I'm getting the names mixed up, but one of you mentioned candida and poor circulation. That's a big one. People don't realize poor circulation, and that can, an easy fix to that is to massage your head or doing a quick fix like a handstand every day or standing on your head or a down dog, just getting that circulation. And even taking something like niacin that helps circulate. You need the circulation to your scalp. But adrenal fatigue, I know, food sensitivities, even syphilis, lupus, heavy metals, skin disease, high fever like with the pandemic, anemia and iron deficiency, or you have too much iron, and that's a tricky one too because you really need to get checked, and you need to have your ferritin levels checked because that is looking at how your iron is absorbing throughout your entire body. You might have your iron levels checked, and they might be normal, but you need to check your ferritin levels, and they have to be at least 70 for your hair to grow, and they can't be over 200, or it could be toxic. You can get iron toxicity. So it's like peeling back the layers, You have to look at your nutrient deficiencies, thyroid imbalances. That's a big one. Are you getting enough T3? You might have to, if you have a thyroid condition, you might have to adjust your medications or get on some. But don't just check your TSH. Do a whole thyroid panel. Parasites, crash diets. And that happens like 3 months after someone goes on a crash diet or, diet is not eating enough, too much exercise, not enough, too much or not enough exercise. It has to be a happy medium. It goes on, and then also just too much, hairstyling and hair treatments and pulling on your hair and just, keep it simple as far as, I never blow dry my hair. I never have. But that's, and then, looking at mold, what's going on in your house. I have one client, the whole family's losing hair, and we found out they have mold toxicity in their house. So it all goes together, and at the end of the day, I believe it all starts in the gut because we even produce our hormones in our gut.
So what would you say, that was a long list of different types of hair loss, essentially. What would you say, in your experience, Julie, working with people in this area, what are maybe like the 4 or 5 most common types of hair loss that you see? Like you mentioned alopecia, like earlier.
Autoimmune.
Yeah, so which is autoimmune based, right? So what are like the top maybe like 3 to 5 types of hair loss that you see that are just the most common types for people?
Inflammation, stress, digestive, and autoimmune.
Okay. Which kind of sums it up in a lot of ways, right? Like even if it's mold or like nutrient deficiencies like that, digestive stress piece really covers a wide range, like an umbrella of things. Why don't you talk a little bit about like the hair loss quiz that you've got on your website? Where can people go, or how can they find this? Can they just message you with like the word hair loss quiz to get a link to the quiz?
Sure. Or they can go to my website. It's julieolson.net, and it's right there.
Great. Is that linked in your profile here on Instagram?
No, it's not.
Okay. So I would just say, to make it easy for people, if you guys are interested in doing Julie's hair loss type quiz, just go ahead and send Julie Olson here. She's the one in red that's in the live with us. Go ahead and send her a message on Instagram, and then she can share the link to her website where you can go grab that quiz, and tell them a little bit about like the quiz. So it's just what is it gonna do? It's gonna ask them a couple questions about the kind of hair loss that they're experiencing to help them figure out what's going on, I assume.
Right. And then it will give you the answer. It'll after you answer the questions, it'll give you the answer of what type of hair loss you have. And then I also have another 10-point checklist of what to do now for thinning hair, so you can get started right away. It's a checklist right there on my website you can download.
Fantastic. Good. There's a couple of questions or comments that are coming in here from our viewers. One person was asking, how can I get the transcript? So in order to get the recording, like the audio recording of our discussion today and the transcript, the notes, you guys can just directly message here on Instagram, Julie or Luna or Chelsea today with the word hair, and then they will get you a copy of the recording and the notes later today or tomorrow once we shut the discussion down. So I wanted to answer that question. We've got just a comment saying this is all super helpful. Can you share any favorite product recommendations too? Yes, we're about to talk about like tips for reversing hair loss inside and out, so we can definitely share products recommendations for some of that stuff as well. Let me see. Did you guys see any other questions that came in here? Tanya's saying all of that applies to me. Great. So awesome that we're hitting on some notes for you guys. Tanya's asking about rosemary oil. So I had mentioned some of the essential oils that I have used to help like re-stimulate my scalp and everything. So I said lavender, which is anti-inflammatory, peppermint, which is stimulating for circulation to get blood flow to those hair follicles, and then tea tree oil or melaleuca oil, which is antimicrobial. So if you've got, any like fungal stuff or anything going on, that helps. So Julie, tell us a little bit about rosemary oil and the benefits of that specifically, because you just got really excited about the rosemary oil.
I was just saying you're right on, and also sweetnard or musk root oil, cedarwood, sage. Those are great oils, but use a base oil. The best base oil that really gets in there that helps with hair growth is emu oil. You want to get a good organic one.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. So we covered all kind of the questions and the comments here, for the most part, catching up on those. Tanya, make sure that you message one of the ladies here to get a copy of the transcription and the notes so you can come back to this later, since you said you get interrupted a little bit with your son there. I just wanted to, we got an email in today with questions. So if you guys didn't know, you can jump on my email list. You can go to holistichealthboss.com, jump on my email list, and every time we do a Instagram live like this, I always email out to let you know it's coming, and you can send in your questions ahead of time as well too. Or when you see me posting about it in Instagram, we do this every other Wednesday. You can also submit your questions on Instagram also. And Anka just wanted to share with us, she said she was having an issue with greasy hair. She had to wash it every day and could barely make it through 8 hours without it getting greasy. But ever since she stopped coffee and cleaned up her gut, or cleaned up her diet, aka is basically healing her gut, healing her hormones from the inside out, she said that she can easily go 3 days without having to wash it. So just to show you with like some changes, like coffee can definitely impact your hormone balance depending on what's going on with your hormones, and then cleaning up your diet obviously helps to improve your gut health, reduce inflammation, all that kind of stuff. So she's noticing an instant result from just doing those things.
That's great. I want to add that if you drink a lot of coffee, it increases your DHT. And when you have elevated DHT, you're going to lose hair.
Ah.
Drink a lot of coffee. Cut down on it.
Good to know. Very, very good to know. I just want to check in with Chelsea and Luna. You know, I think that Julie here covered the gamut of the different types of hair loss, but is there anything else that you guys wanted to add that we might have missed in terms of types of hair loss that you've seen? I mean, we talked some thyroid stuff, we talked some other things, but anything else that has come to mind for you guys? And if we covered it all, that's cool too.
I think for me, it's, I would say that was pretty well covered. And, it's just really getting in tune and doing some, deeper testing would be really helpful to discover what is going on a little deeper from looking deeper into the hood of the car, vehicle here, of your body. And, so nothing that I've had a direct experience with someone else who had a fungal infection that actually when she cleared her fungal infection, her hair came back. But,
Great. Covered it all from your scope then, Chelsea, too?
Yeah, the only other, I guess disease process I'm thinking about is more like anxiety related. So something like trichotillomania, something like that, where you're actually plucking your own hair out. Absolutely. Nervous, a nervous stress. I actually have a client with this, and one thing just dramatically, when we cleaned up her diet, that something like that simple, it just started putting things out there like little triggers that would kind of help her remember, or realize what she was doing, just some of those, entering into some of those stress patterns. You can stop that type of activity before it even starts, but I think it's just all going into a lot of the things that we're talking about here today, just the lifestyle factors, making sure that you have the right lab testing, making sure that you're really helping seed your health with the right nutrition, stress reduction techniques, things like that. So
great. Awesome. Well, let's talk about tips to reverse hair loss from the inside out. We've already been alluding to this quite a bit. And again, if you guys are just joining us, you missed some of what our discussion was, or you just want to, be able to get your hands on everything we talked about to reference later, we are recording and transcribing this. You guys can send a message on Instagram over to Julie here, Luna, or Chelsea with the word hair, and they will get you a copy of the audio recording and the notes from our discussion today. And I see some comments coming in that we're about to kind of address. Like Anne is asking, has anyone used low-level laser as a treatment? And Tanya's asking about hair analysis, depending on cost. And what I want to emphasize here, ladies, is in relation to those questions, I have a cat back here that's crying. If you can't see her poking her little head, she's like, "It's snack time, Mom." Is that, when we have an expression outward of what's going on with our hair, like our hair is basically a measurement of our health, right? And so you could certainly spend money on laser and you could certainly spend money on a hair analysis test, but what we're hoping that you're gathering out of our discussion today is what's going on with your hair is actually happening. It's something that's going on in the inside. It's going on with your hormone balance. It's going on with your gut specifically. And so doing those treatments are not necessarily going to fix the root problem, which is what Julie kind of specializes in, is helping women get to the root of their hair loss problems, like the root of your hair root problems, right? So let's talk a little bit about, I'm going to step over here to let Snooki in because she's crying at me. But Julie, let's take it away and start talking about some of the tips to reverse hair loss from the inside out that you've got for us.
Well, do you want me to, can I go to the top 10 nutrients needed for beautiful hair and what they do?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we talked about protein, and hair's mainly made of protein, so obviously if you're a vegan or a vegetarian, it's challenging. You need all the essential acids and protein to get the most benefits. So if you are a vegan or a vegetarian, you'll have to supplement additionally with like L-lysine and some other amino acids that you don't get in animal protein. And then vitamin D plays a role in stimulating new and old hair follicles. When there's not enough vitamin D in your system, new hair growth can be stunted. And vitamin A helps make the oils that condition your scalp, which is essential for hair health. It also stimulates the growth of hair follicle stem cells. And niacin I talked about before, but you need the flushing type because it dilates the capillaries and also helps take away the buildup of calcium and DHT that can otherwise greatly inhibit hair follicle growth. And iron I touched upon too, but iron is very essential for our thyroid to function properly, and also the hair follicle and the roots of our hair are fed by the nutrient-rich blood supply. So if you have an iron deficiency, the follicle becomes nutrient-deprived and negatively affects the normal cycle of hair growth and can lead to excessive shedding of your hair. And then fatty acids, so omega-3s and omega-6s, are linked, the healthy omega-6s, are linked to the hair growth due to the proliferation of hair follicle cells. Deficiencies can cause hair loss and actually lightening of your hair color. And then selenium aids in the formation of hair follicles for protection against damage. Biotin, and biotin's not number one, folks. People think it is, but it's not.
Yeah.
But deficiencies can lead to dry, brittle hair that's more prone to thinning. And zinc is involved in tissue repair and growth, including hair. And manganese deficiencies can lead to slow hair growth.
Yeah, and I wanted to comment too about selenium is that selenium is also critical for thyroid hormone conversion. And so that selenium can be a really important piece. And a lot of people, I find, like I do a hair tissue mineral analysis test on people. Luna, I know you're really big into doing that. Chelsea, I think you do it too sometimes. And I find that selenium is deficient in so many people all the time. And manganese as well too.
So you just eat 2 Brazil nuts a day. I call them selenium nuts.
Yes. Yes. Unless they've got some autoimmune stuff going on, then I have them avoid lectins like nuts and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
yeah, for sure.
Sometimes supplementing. So that was great, a rundown of the top 10 needed for hair loss. Do you have any other tips that you want to share to reverse hair loss from the inside out, Julie?
Sure. And if you DM me or direct message me anyone, I can send you that list, the top 10 nutrients. But also I want to add, using a pillowcase helps reduce the friction up to 43%, and it helps keep your natural oils in your hair and actually your skin. Not polyester, but silk.
Interesting.
They sell the polyester ones as that. I've seen it all over the place. Get a nice silk pillowcase, and it feels so good. Yeah.
That's a great little unknown tip that I didn't know about. Thank you for that. Yeah. Are there any products that you love? Because we had that question earlier too, Julie. Are there any products that you love for hair care type of stuff?
If you want me to name brand names?
Sure. I mean, whatever you want to mention.
Yeah, I like Andalou, Acure, Wellness, the Wellness Mama. She has a line of hair care products, but Just nothing. Those are really clean, organic products that are gluten-free and don't have all those chemicals. You have to stay away from that. And you all talked about, you can't be washing your hair every day. I mean, I wash mine every other day, or every third day, but you can't be washing every day and blow drying it. And doing those tight hairstyles, and it doesn't do you any favors.
Yeah, it's kind of like finding a balance, right? Because we want those the natural oils to do their job, but at the same time, we don't want to go too long like I did in between hair washings and get dirt and oil that builds up and like clogs the hair follicles either. So it's finding your natural balance, like with what is in between hair washing, what's good for you. So, awesome. Well, Luna, what about, do you have any tips to reverse hair loss from the inside out? Maybe you've got some stuff like related to hormones or otherwise possibly?
Well, I had a couple that I was thinking is, with the vitamin D, a lot of that is actually getting out in the sun and allowing the sun to penetrate your scalp and getting that direct exposure is what I would recommend. And I've heard that helps. And then on the note of just like hair loss being inflammation, I think one supplement, or you can also go food-based with this, is the essential fatty acids. And doing that by either doing a fish oil supplement or a plant-based would be something like a flax oil or a hemp oil, or using some chia seeds. But really getting those essential fatty acids. And I do recommend a supplement too, because when you can take like a therapeutic grade of essential fatty acids, that's where you can really see really strong anti-inflammatory effects. But I would say, anything you can do to decrease inflammation. So you want to be really looking at stress both internally and externally. So everything from food to your lifestyle, what is causing inflammation in your body, and really just de-escalating that. And like I said, I think that's something that we all do so well in our practices. So always feel free to reach out to one of us if you want some personalized support.
Awesome. Chelsea, how about... Oh, go ahead, Julie.
Can I just add to that? I mean, what we consume every day is not just food. It's our thoughts. It's our environment. It's our relationships, and that all plays a role into our stress and how we feel and how our body reacts. I mean, nowadays, so many people are in the fight or flight. They even though there's not a bear running after them, because they're just on the constant go, go, go. And that was part of the problem with me, where I never slowed down to look at my own health until my mom got breast cancer and, discovered all these, what a hot mess I was. And the last thing to happen is for your hair to fall out. So start now. Don't get to the point where your hair's falling out.
Right.
Stress plays a huge role.
Let's see. Katie said, I asked my doctor for a CRP and said rate test for inflammation. All markers were in their normal ranges. Can I still have inflammation? And Katie, 100%. So something like HSCRP is a very general marker for inflammation. One of the tests that all of us here like to run with our clients, I think that we all agree on this, is a GI map stool sample test that actually looks at your gut health. And there's an inflammatory marker there for the digestive tract specifically. So oftentimes we will see, no inflammation on something like HSCRP, but then we'll see on the stool sample test the markers called calprotectin, and we'll see inflammation in calprotectin, or we get different insights about what's actually going on in the gut, bacteria, parasites, yeast overgrowth, the immune system's ability to respond that will give us clues that there is inflammation going on internally. Another really good test to look at that gives you insights about inflammation and chronic inflammation specifically is doing something like a Dutch hormone test, where we get to look at cortisol values and cortisol rhythms. So we get to look at like metabolized cortisol, how much cortisol the body's been making, and then we look at 24-hour free cortisol, which is how the body's utilizing cortisol throughout the day, which can give us some really great insights about chronic stress and inflammation that's been going on in the body. And all of us here are trained in looking for patterns and correlations. So like when Luna was talking about androgen hormones being in a certain way earlier, or when we see estrogens or testosterones, we know that those are upstream or downstream impacts of chronic stress and inflammation that's going on. And so what we help people to do is assess, well, what are all the things like diet, lifestyle-wise that are contributing to stress and inflammation on the body, and let's alleviate it, because ultimately, that no matter what you're dealing with, hair loss or otherwise, that is what's going to help to restore balance to your body so that you can ultimately feel better, basically. So, Chelsea, let's jump over to you and now talk about like any tips that you have for reversing hair loss from the inside out, since you've had 3 different types of hair loss yourself. I'm curious to hear what you have to share.
Yeah, I feel like so much good stuff has been covered. I will add just toxicity, and I feel like that's one of the areas that we probably all cover as well, but just really helping clean from the inside out. So I start with kind of like a cellular cleanse is what I like to call it, cellular cleanup when I'm working with my clients, and I really like to think of it as just going in and really power washing those cells so that they can do what they're intended to do, because I think we're so bombarded with toxins every single day, and they say the latest number is like we're exposed to about 2.5 pounds of toxins every single day, and we have to do something to work with our bodies to get those things out. So whether you're just drinking your daily dandelion tea, or doing something good to kind of just help get out a lot of those the toxins that we're exposed to. You can be pooping on a regular basis, right? You can be sweating on a regular basis. So those are great ways to just expel and get rid of toxins in the body. And then just really good digestive health. I feel like gluten is a really big culprit when it comes to hair loss. And I'll have to say it's one of my never foods. If I say all people should eliminate something, I hate to be that gluten Nazi, but I kind of am. And
I'm with you.
Right there. One of those foods that it impacts the thyroid negatively, it impacts hormones negatively, it impacts the gut negatively. So there's just a lot of, you can see it on testing over and over again if you're looking at lab testing and you're kind of correlating with symptoms and things like that. So hair loss and you just kind of want to play around with a few things, those would be a really great couple starts with just some regular detox out. We can do that, and then just remove things like gluten that can be kind of inflammatory to your system to help kind of just calm down that inflammation a little bit and see if that moves the needle for you. If not, then it might be time to just take the next step and start looking at some testing and doing some things a little bit further, just to start investigating to see if we can put together some of those missing puzzle pieces for you so that you can find the cause of what's leading to your hair loss.
Love it. Thank you. I want to share a couple things too. So going back to the protein piece that Julie, you kind of touched on earlier, is that people really are not eating as much protein as they think they are, or enough. I love Dr. Gabrielle Lyons has done a ton of research in this area and shares a lot of great information about this. And Rob Wolf talks about this quite a bit as well too. And in Dr. Gabrielle Lyons' research, what they found through research, we start to lose muscle mass and protein as we get older anyways, and protein is essential for all cellular function, and obviously, as we've been talking about, it's important for our hair as well too as a nutrient. The kind of old general recommendation was like 1 gram per pound of lean body mass. So you'd have to figure out your body fat percentage minus that from your total weight to get your lean mass. And what Dr. Gabrielle Lyons has found in her research is that it's actually 1 gram per pound of mass regardless. So like I weigh 140 pounds, and so my goal is to get in 140 grams of protein per day. And here's the cool thing about when you do that. Not only is it going to help to nourish your hair because you're getting in your amino acids and your proteins, but it also helps to stave off like cravings for carbs. It helps to balance your blood sugar. It helps you to like not get hungry in between meals and feel like you're snacking. So I just wanted to give that specific tip. It's actually like because of the way that we've been conditioned to eat in the standard American diet world, and even somebody who works in the health world, like I really have to work at getting that much protein. Like, you know, the recommendation for protein is like a serving size is the size of your fist, which is like basically 3 to 4 ounces or whatever. In order for me to get into my protein for the day, I'm eating like 6 to 8 ounces of protein at lunch and at dinner because I usually just eat 2 meals for the most part. So think about that. The other thing that I wanted to throw out there is castor oil. So Chelsea, you I think mentioned this a little bit earlier, and I wanted to talk about this a little bit more in relation to omegas and hormone balancing. So one of my favorite things, health tools, is a castor oil pack. And you can use castor oil for a lot of different reasons. A castor oil pack specifically is like where we apply castor oil over the abdomen and like the liver and wear it for a period of time to let that soak in. So castor oil packs are going to help to heal the digestive tract, which we've been talking about as one of the root causes of hair loss. It also helps to stimulate detoxification liver, so getting toxins out of the body so that the systems of the body, your thyroid, all that stuff can function better. It also is really potent in some of these omegas that we've been talking about. So it's another way to get omegas into your body without taking more supplements or like eating more foods that contain them. And it also helps to balance your hormones like prostaglandins. So that's something you can be using as a tool. Plus, castor oil, when applied to hair, helps your hair grow. So like this is something I've been doing for my eyelashes specifically because, you know, everybody's got, you know, the fake eyelashes these days or eyelash extensions. And I was like, that's one, can be really toxic. And 2, that's a habit. Once you start it, you can't stop, right? Like you just get addicted to having these luscious eyelashes. So I was like, well, what can I do alternatively? So I got an empty mascara thing and I put castor oil in there with a drop of lavender oil because lavender also helps to stimulate and strengthen hair growth. And so at nighttime, I will apply some castor oil on my eyelashes. I do it on my eyebrows, but you can actually do like a castor oil mask on your hair, which castor oil is very antimicrobial and antifungal as well too. So it can help, like this is one of those self-care things that you can do for your scalp that we were talking about earlier as well. So castor oil in general is just a great thing to have around your house. You can use it for all different types of reasons. So those are some of my tips. We're going to wrap it up.
Can I just get technical real quick?
Yeah.
And say that hair follicles exhibit enormous cellular activity and represent the body's second or third highest turnover after the gut, epithelium, and bone marrow.
Wow. That's really cool. That's a very interesting fact. So you know what I love about that fact, Julie, is that means that there's a huge opportunity to heal your hair loss, right? Because there's such rapid turnover, cellular turnover, that means that like you can heal those things really quickly when you do the right stuff, right? So we're going to have to start to wrap it up here because I do have to get to another appointment. But what I want to just leave you all with and say is a couple of things. Is one, if you want to get a copy of the audio recording and the transcription, make sure you direct message on Instagram here, either Julie, Chelsea, or Luna with the word hair. They will get you a copy of that later once we shut down today. Julie also shared a lot of great resources with you guys. She's got a hair loss type quiz. She had her top 10 nutrients for hair loss stuff. So make sure you guys message Julie to grab some of those items. She can share some of those links with you guys as well too. So thank you all for being here. We'll be back here in 2 weeks on March 9th. We're going to talk about getting your mojo back in midlife, managing your energy for high achievers. Be back here at 2:30. Remember, you guys can follow me here on Instagram. We always post a couple days beforehand whenever we're going to do these Instagram lives. You can come over to Holistic Health Boss, jump on my email list so that you can catch email notifications about our Instagram lives that we do. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday and week. We'll see you back in a couple of weeks.
Bye, guys. Thanks.